I want to talk about how we could look at the graph of a parabola, use the zeros to come up with the equation. Now, I would always start with that idea of like, where is it zero? So we've got one here, we've got one here. So let's just make a note that that is at x equals -4 and x equals 2. Now, remember, a zero comes from the idea that if we have two things multiplied together that equal 0, one of those two things has to be 0. So I'm going to write this equation in factored form. I'm going to start, it is a parabola, so it's going to have two factors to make an x squared, right? And I basically have to say, well, what factor would -4 make 0? Oftentimes you just say kind of the opposite, x plus 4. Because if I plug -4 in for x, -4 plus 4 is 0, and I therefore have made the equation equal to 0, the output. So the other one will be x minus 2. Because if I plug 2 in, this 0, 2 minus 2 is 0. So I've now ensured that at these two spots, it will create a 0, and then 0 times anything else is 0. It will make the equation hit the axis. Now, it wouldn't be a bad idea to multiply this out, to distribute, to take our x and multiply that in to x minus 2, and then to take the 4 and multiply that in. So let me do that real quick. X times x is x squared. X times -2 is -2x. And then 4 times x, and 4 times -2. And the reason I'm just doing that is because I wanted to focus on this right here. This -8, that is the y-intercept. If this didn't agree, if there was something going on where we got -8 as our y-intercept in our equation, but that did not match up with what was on the graph, then we must have had some kind of scalar out front, some multiplier that changed it. Okay. So for example, if I could just make a quick sketch of let me put it right here at -4. If it had the same zeros, but it kind of went through, pardon my bad drawing here, like this instead, and -4 was the y-intercept, I'd say, well, what would I divide the y-intercept that I'm given by to get -4? Of course, the answer is 2. So you just put a 1/2 up front as a multiplier, and it would scale that back. It's a good thing to check, because the zeros, the factored form with the zeros only tell us where it hits this axis. So it's a good idea to double check. It wouldn't change this. These will still be the factors. It would just change the multiplier up front. Let's do another one. All right, so here we've got zeros that are at -1 and at 5. So let's just write that down quick. We've got x equals -1. X equals 5. So my factors will be x plus 1 and x minus 5. Again, it needs to be the factors that if I plug these values in, -1 and 5, it'll make one of the factors 0. So -1 plus 1 would be 0, and then 5 minus 5 would be 0. Now if I multiplied this out, I suppose I should combine my like terms in the middle. You'll see again, just a good idea to verify. The y-intercept is -5. That's what I'm seeing over here. If it were anything different, I could fix that with something out front. I guess the other thing I could point out is if it were a kind of like flipped up, like it was like this instead, it had the same zeros but was upside down, then it would have been a negative that I put in front. That would have flipped that parabola over. So there's a lot of adjustments we could make, kind of a multiplier up front, a scalar. We can flip the parabola. We can change kind of, how skinny or how stretched it is to change the y-intercept. It's just something to pay attention to. Let's do one more. In this example, you'll see that I only have one spot that it hits the axis. So you should think, well, okay, x equals 3, then the factor would be x minus 3, but that's a line. That's not a parabola. So how we could make this a parabola is simply by squaring this, x minus 3 squared, because we haven't changed the fact that there's only one 0, but we've now given it that parabola shape by having x minus 3 times x minus 3. So again, let me just multiply out, x minus 3 times x minus 3 would be x squared minus 6x plus 9. Look here. Y-intercept agrees. If I were to, put like a 1/3 out front, maybe, right here. So let's say I've just put a 1/3 out front, so that would multiply all of this by 1/3. That would change the 1/3 times 9 would be 3, so that would keep the same 0, but stretch this parabola out to look like that. So again, I just want you to be careful that you're checking the y-intercept is correct. In this case, I honestly didn't change any of the parabolas to have a scalar. I just wanted to point out what those scalars would do, because it's worth just double checking. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe for more math help.